Versato clothes cause I'm dressed to kill. Leave 6 bitches oohing cause I'm worth a mill. Flow is ill, spitting no vomit spill. Killing them softly but I ain't Lauren.
What is up, my people? Welcome to another episode of the Townie Sports Podcast. I am one of your 2 hosts, Sami, alongside, as always, Vic with the fresh Denver Nuggets jersey. Vic, how you doing, bro?
Just living the dream, Sami. Happy to be here. Happy to be in this world that exists of Nikola Jokic.
I mean, bro, think about how crazy sports world is right now in March. We haven't seen anything like this. We got, a little delay in the MLB, so we got that hot stove going right now. NFL free agency is kicking off. We got the draft coming up, and we have March Madness. Plus, not to mention, we have the NBA in full effect with everybody trying to make the playoffs. Like, this is nuts, man. I was thinking about that on my drive home today, like how crazy that is right now.
Lots of stuff going on in the MLB free agency that we'll get to. It's impressive. It reminds me of remember when the NFL had not a lockout, but had a work stoppage going into like late was it June or July, and free agency just took off, and people were signing with teams left and right, or was that NBA? I forget what it was, but it might have been both. But I'm just happy.
I think it was both.
After we have baseball back, I'm excited for it, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, just to give a little lowdown, kind of what we're going to get to today. Obviously, NFL free agency, tons of crazy news coming out of pretty much all of the camps, all the players' camps, all the teams' camps. Then, of course, the MLB, we're going to get into that, and the terms of the new CBA, get into the free agency, and maybe some other news here and there as we go along. Then, of course, man, something that you and I both enjoy together, the March Madness tournament. I was actually really lucky to be able to go to the SEC tournament this past weekend. And, bro, I got to say, the energy was insane. So I can't wait to see what goes on in all these March Madness games.
I'm just as excited as you are. In fact, we got a game going on right now between Texas Southern and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. The Islanders trail Texas Southern 28-32 with only 28 seconds left in the half, but this is some of the ugliest basketball I've ever seen, and that's what I love about March Madness is you get the ugly basketball. It's just fun. Ugly basketball is fun sometimes, right? I mean,
yes, especially when it comes down to stretch and it gets a little ugly towards the end, and it comes down to all those free throws. You're like, well, if you made those shots in the first half, it wouldn't come down to this.
I have not seen so many turnovers and so many missed shots in my life, and it is glorious. It is fantastic, and it is pissing me off, but let's get to the show.
All right. So first and foremost, NFL free agency, man. First on the docket, Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay. Hasn't officially signed it yet, but apparently agreed to terms to 4 years, $200 million, including $153 million guaranteed. And of course, right after that, we get the news. Or actually, was it before or after where we got the news that Davante Adams, I think it was after, that Davante Adams is indeed getting the franchise tag to stay in Green Bay?
He is getting franchise tagged, yes. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay.
What did you think of that?
The Rodgers deal itself, well, it's been 2 weeks, so we've had some time. Well, we haven't been on the air in 2 weeks, but it's been some time since we've talked. And it's given me time to reflect on what actually went down and what the real money is here. So the 153 is what's really guaranteed here and what really he's going to be paid. I don't fault Aaron Rodgers for signing the way he did or when he did it. He's a little bit of a kind of whiny guy as is. He's obviously sticking it to the media now that he continuously does the Pat McAfee show rather than doing normal media, which is fine because you can hop on Townie Sports anytime you want, A-Raj, and we'll take care of you, right? But very interesting to see the number they got to. Of course, he was going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, in which he is, and he's deservedly so. As far as Adams coming back, that's a no-brainer. I think his and Rodgers' destinies were linked going into it. So, good for him. Happy he made his money. I'm never talking down, never upset when a player gets paid, especially one that deserves it. I thought last year would be a decline year for him, and I was wrong. And I'm more of a man to admit that I'm wrong. But he was just the first domino to fall, and then you started seeing things really get going once he finally signed. So I'm sure there's plenty of other stuff to talk about, but not much here other than Aaron Rodgers gets his money. So congrats.
Yeah. I mean, I just hated the narrative that people tried to push, that it was about winning, it was about a championship, it was the relationship he had with a coach, when in reality we see what happens here. It really was at the end of the day, it was all about the money. And yeah, like you said, I'm not gonna bash somebody for getting paid, getting that bread.
And it was the money and the influence too. I think you want influence over decisions, and they were obviously able to come to some sort of agreement, so good for them.
Yeah. All right, so we had some other things happen in between. We'll get to that in a second. But I think the biggest news to get to, being as our fandom plus as well as where we are located, is Sunday. I'm sitting at dinner, right? I'm having some chicken wings with my girlfriend. I'm sitting there, and then my phone goes off. And first it was you texting me, Tom Brady's back. And I was like, oh, maybe that was just some, news, Twitter. And then right after that, I see on the TV the breaking news thing that Tom Brady announced his unretirement. So what were your emotions going through that, Vic? And what were you thinking about that? And what do you think this was altogether?
I have to give a shout out to KK and A-Rod over at Fairweather Podcast. I was on their podcast last week, and they mentioned something about this being a conspiracy, just trying to he just wants to go to the Niners, and God damn it, they were absolutely right. They nailed it. This is all a ploy for him to get to the Niners, and then when he realized that the Bucs weren't gonna cave, he said, "You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna finish my career out here, I guess." Now the narrative that I'm hearing now, though, Sammy, is Bruce Arians on the hot seat. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I've been hearing in podcasts. Bill Simmons was the first to bring it up on the BS report this past Sunday, where he thinks that Arians is on his way out.
And why would that be? What are the implications there as to why he would be out? I guess that's my question.
Well, some of the reasons that he brought in were that Arians isn't really as dedicated as Brady is, and Brady sees that and is not as in tune with his head coach as one might think. Now, would this mean that Byron Leftwich gets the upgrade and ends up ultimately becoming the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is this why Byron Leftwich wasn't getting too much love in the head coaching circles when there were interviewing head coaches? Do people already know it's kind of a foregone conclusion if Brady goes back, Leftwich is the guy? I don't know. This is all speculation, but we'll see.
I actually love all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, shout out to the Fairweather Podcast. They brought their tinfoil hats, and they were discussing the fact that Brady, was trying to use some sort of leverage with this retirement ploy to maybe get a trade to San Francisco, go back home. I know that's where he's from, and things like that. And the Bucs called his bluff, and so he was like, you know what, screw it. And he's also another one of those players who's not about. He's the opposite of Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, he's not that guy that's gonna create a lot of drama. He's non-confrontational. So I mean, the simple way could have been just to hold out, but of course, Tom Brady likes to keep his image. He likes to look like a good guy and all this. So he was just like, you know what, I'll stick it out. And yeah, here he is back in Tampa. And obviously on the news of Chris Godwin getting the franchise tag as well. And then might I add, this happened today. Shaq Mason was traded from the Patriots to the Buccaneers for a 5th round pick. So even though they did lose, I think Alex Kappa and Ali Marpet, they did get an upgrade by getting Shaq Mason, who was I believe he had a Pro Football Focus rating of around 85.7. So a pretty good guard overall.
When he played.
Right.
He
played 15 games last year. I believe he played 15 last year, but I don't know if he played all the minutes.
Yeah, well, regardless, I know he missed time. He's been known to miss time. If it was a healthy season for him, and even if he played 15 games, it's still not all the games, right? So there was how many games last season? So there were 17 last season plus the one playoff game.
Right.
So I missed at least 3 games. So, and that's been an issue. Really, I'm surprised that the Patriots would get off an offensive lineman because offensive line has really been our issue, especially in pass protect. We were better, obviously, against run block or better run blocking unit than we were pass blocking, but. Yeah, I mean, Bill I trust, so not too worried about that.
We'll see what dominoes fall there. But Vic, something you pointed out to me, and this is going to be our segment, the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. So as you pointed out today, Adam Schefter tweeted out that the Falcons have emerged as a sleeper team to acquire Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, according to league sources. So now this puts the Falcons, Saints, and Browns all as heavily interested in Deshaun Watson. What say you about this Deshaun Watson situation?
And the Carolina Panthers are in there as well. Don't count them out; they're still in it. It's interesting. I also saw that Deshaun Watson declined a move to the Seattle Seahawks, which I thought was very interesting. I don't really know what his mindset is there, but good to know. So what I wanted to do, Sammy, is take a look at Deshaun Watson's previous seasons and compare it to other quarterbacks. So I chose the 2019 season, and as you can see here, we have the rankings for sorted by QBR for 2019. Now, this wasn't his necessarily standout year, but he finished in the middle of the pack. And I found it interesting to me that a lot of people are as hype as they are on Deshaun Watson based off of one season. So 2020 was a great year, obviously, for him. He led the league in passing yards with 4,823. He was one of the best quarterbacks to not only get in terms of passing yards, but also in terms of scrambling. Now, if we look at the QBR here, and as I pull it up here, I got it. Okay. So his total QBR in 2019 was 70.
And this is from 2019, correct?
Yes, this is 2019, which is what I wanted because I didn't want to take.
Okay.
I wanted to take not his statistical best year, but a year where because we never saw him in 2021, right? Never saw him in 2022. Correct. So, in 2019, he finished in the middle of the pack QBR. So that just showed how good he could be at that time. Now, if we look at Deshaun Watson 2020 and what he did there, now we can take off that screenshot.
So for the listeners, Deshaun Watson's QBR was 70.5 in 2019. 70.5. Right. So kind of in the middle of the pack. And
if you look at his passing total yards, so he's looking at his passing yards, he passed for 3,852 yards. So his total sack percentage, in terms of how many times he was sacked. So he was sacked 44 times, right, in 2019 for a sack percentage of 8.2%. In 2020, he was sacked 8.3% of the time for a total of 49 sacks on the season and passed for a league high 4,800 yards. That's why the hype is so high on Deshaun Watson. That's why you're willing to give up multiple picks for a guy who's still only 26 years old. And on top of that, took a whole year off last year, right? So not only he's going to be fresh, right? And he plays games, right? So, the narrative on these quarterbacks that are running quarterbacks or out of the pocket passers, however you want to call them, they really are. I mean, he's a durable guy. He played 15 games in 2019, 16 in 2018, and 16 again in 2020. You know what you're going to get from Deshaun Watson, and you're going to get at least 4,000 yards passing, even in a new offense. And I mean, I don't know about you, Sammy, but I think he is by far the best quarterback on the market today. Now, granted, Aaron Rodgers is off of it, but he is by far and away the only quarterback on the market right now. I have heard that the Jimmy G rumors have died down a lot. Not a lot of people buying into Jimmy G as they previously were. So it looks like to me, in my opinion, where I think he's going to end up going is the New Orleans Saints. I think that's where he's going to finish. That's where he's going to end up landing. I think they want him the most. I think that's the best fit for him to go into New Orleans. You get to play. You get to stay in the dome, right? He's played in the dome his whole career, right. Whole NFL career, I should say. He gets to stay in the dome in New Orleans, and he has the weapons around Kamara. Michael
Thomas if he comes back.
I mean, if he comes back, right, and which all indications are that he will, right?
Right.
You got Traquan Smith, UCF grad over there, and the other guy that came on last season. I'm blanking. Who's the other wide receiver there? Came on last season. I forget.
I'm blanking.
But yeah. I'll find. It's going to come up to me right now. But yeah, I like New Orleans. They're my favorite. How about you, Sammy?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say the Falcons. I think that would be a great fit, and I wouldn't mind it considering a bet that I had put on the Falcons winning the NFC South pre-Brady. By the way, pre-Brady. I think you're looking at a Falcons team that drastically overachieved last season, and potentially you put maybe a little bit more athletic quarterback back there. Granted, without Calvin Ridley, they are lacking on talent and all indications. I think Cordell Patterson is not coming back. So I think the Saints probably are the best fit. I would love to see if the Falcons can pull that off and maybe bring him in over there. But, I mean, without Calvin Ridley, that's a really hard sell in my opinion.
Marquez Callaway, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, Marquez.
So, but, I mean, you don't have Ridley there, right? You don't really have a running game anymore. I mean, right. All you have is that big Florida guy, big Florida tight end. I don't know. I feel like the Saints are the best spot for him, in my opinion. Now, I would love to see what the Browns could do. That'd be interesting.
What can Brown do for you?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think that's one of the more interesting trade packages, right? Because there were talks that they were looking at giving up Baker and multiple first-round picks. So, I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah,
this is going to be great, and he's going to be the shoe that drops. I don't know that I see. Do you see Jimmy G going anywhere after Deshaun's traded? Maybe the Colts.
No, but I mean, I was going to mention that, as you had just said it. Now with the Amari Cooper situation, that does intrigue me about the Browns potentially making a move. I feel like you get a receiver like that when you kind of know, or you have a plan, right? I mean, well, we don't know because it is the Browns, but I mean, just kind of putting on our tinfoil hats again and considering it, that would be very interesting if they look at their situation in Cleveland, knowing that Baker Mayfield only took them so far with the weapons that they had, with OBJ at the time, Jarvis Landry. Now Jarvis Landry is no longer there. But potentially making a move for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, who, for all intents and purposes, would work really well with Amari Cooper over there. So that's actually an interesting take about the Browns as well.
Well, I guess we'll just see what happens. But I'll tell you what, the NFL season never ceases to amaze me. And with the draft just around the corner, you can tell that not a lot of these teams are high on quarterbacks in the draft here, just the way that they're pursuing Deshaun Watson and another quarterback. So, I mean, even for God's sakes, even Mitch Trubisky got signed. So, a lot more to come.
Yeah. So with that gets to our next bit of news. Russell Wilson was traded to the Denver Broncos for Noah Fant, Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, and draft picks. So I think there was a pretty good amount of first round. I think it was like first round, second round, and fifth round draft picks all in that package for Russell Wilson. I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm super stoked. The Denver Broncos were a team that I was really high on, and I know I had mentioned to you during the season about how underrated that defense is just because they didn't have the name value. But when you look at what that defense did overall, you're like, it's mind-blowing how that defense could keep that team in games. Not to mention just the amount of talent that they have on that offensive roster. I mean, granted, now without Noah Fant there, you kind of lose a little bit of a tight end, but you still have Cortland Sutton. You still have, I can't even think of his name now. The other wide receiver from
Jerry
Alabama
Jeudy.
out there. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy
Jerry
there. I mean, this Denver team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I've never been a big Russell Wilson hater. If anything, I've actually really liked Russell Wilson. So I'm actually pretty excited. I'm excited to see about this AFC West. I mean, we're going to continue talking about a few more teams. But what do you think about this Russell Wilson trade to the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, I thought it worked out well for both teams, if I'm being honest. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson fan. But now that those weapons have a competent quarterback, I think it's going to be interesting. I think that team's going to do well. Obviously, this AFC West is just something else, man. I mean, honestly, the team that came out of it last year, the Raiders, I don't even think that they're going to be able to make the playoffs this year.
Bro, Josh McDaniels is so pork, dude.
What's that?
Josh McDaniels is so screwed.
He is. I don't know why he would choose this. Why would he choose this time to come out? I mean,
there was no foresight into any of this though. Like, holy cow, this all happened in a span of what, like 2 days?
I mean, that was just I don't know. I mean, I have them as probably the worst team in the division right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even close. I mean, by far they have the worst quarterback, right? So you have the Chargers who are up there. Obviously, how many teams came out of there? 3 teams came out of there last year, right? It was the
no, they missed it. So, oh yeah, it was 3. So it was the Chiefs. No,
it was
just the Chiefs.
Chiefs, Chargers, and Raiders, right?
No, the Chargers didn't make it.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I think that the Raiders are screwed. They easily finished 4th in this division. The Chargers are on the up and up, and I'm sure we got some free agent news over there. You want to spill, but I love it. I love it for Denver. I love it for Seattle. Seattle needs to move on, and good luck with Drew Lock and sucking for the next few years. Hopefully, they can suck for 3 more years and get Archie Manning.
But yeah, speaking of that AFC West, they have freaking loaded up. So you already have Russell Wilson going over to Denver. You got the Chiefs. The Chiefs are solid in their division already. So you're looking at these other teams loading up, and you look at the Chargers, who have a really solid base. And I say that in a sense because now they're adding more talent to this team. You look at just last week, Khalil Mack was traded to the Chargers, and this is mind-blowing to me. Khalil Mack was traded from the Bears for a 2nd-round pick and a 6th-round pick. Not to mention they re-signed Mike Williams, and they got J.C. Jackson, arguably the best corner in this free agency, for 5 years, $82.5 million. So the AFC West is going to be an absolute freaking battle going forward. I can't wait for every single one of those divisional games. It's gonna be insane. And then you're looking at, on the other side of the spectrum, NFC South, or the NFC North. The Minnesota Vikings re-signed Kirk Cousins to another 1-year deal worth $35 million.
Jesus.
Good for him, dude. Honestly, good for Kirk Cousins, man. He's just continuously getting paid. And to your point last year, you did point it out to me, and just like Kyle did, he had a pretty good year last year. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's not deserving,
35 million. God.
Then last week, this broke my heart a little bit because I was hoping, I'm a huge Amari Cooper fan. Wanted him in New England. Would have been perfect for Mac Jones. But Amari Cooper was traded to the Cleveland Browns. It was like a little bit of a sign and trade, I believe, right? So the Cowboys signed him and then traded him for a 5th-round pick and 6th-round pick swaps. But pretty much the Browns take up all of that contract in that deal. And then, kind of before I get to my last one, I wanted to mention this as well for you, Vic. I know everybody's a bandwagon fan now, but you're a diehard Bengals. They got some offensive line help this offseason. They signed Alex Kappa and, unfortunately, Ted Karras from the Patriots to help solidify that offensive line. Do you have any thoughts on those on the Bengals making those 2 signings?
Uday.
It's going to be really interesting to see how that team does better, especially with a little bit more offensive line help veteran help, consistent help on that O-line.
Yeah, and I'd love to sit here and say that I think that they're going to come out of the gates and go back to the Super Bowl, but I think they're going to have a little bit of Super Bowl hangover next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get knocked out in the first round by my New England Patriots.
I hope so, man. I hope so. And another little sneaky one somebody had mentioned to me in passing. I was in the middle of work, hadn't checked my phone yet, but they had mentioned in passing, and I looked it up only to find it to be true that Mitch Trubisky signed to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, at first, I wanted to take that at face value and just say Mitch Trubisky sucks, right? And just say, oh, who cares? But as I thought about it a little bit more, I'm like, that's actually that's an interesting signing. I personally think the Pittsburgh Steelers got better in this signing. And I say that like this because you look at how Big Ben played last season. That team was 9-7 with Big Ben, a stumbling, bumbling Big Ben back there.
Yeah.
He had 22 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, looking like a complete blob. You got Mitch Trubisky coming in here, younger, more athletic.
Yeah.
Have some tutelage from Brian Daboll over in Buffalo. Hopefully something rubbed off on him. Now he's got great weapons in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a very solid defense. And I looked this up. He's actually a career 64% passer. Now, I'm not coming out and saying, oh, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win a Super Bowl. No. But I'm just saying that's going to be interesting. Maybe Mitch Trubisky shows us something now. Because honestly, there's no excuse. I mean, this is Trubisky's time to show us that he's actually competent, if not a little bit more than a competent quarterback. And maybe, like you mentioned before the podcast, is he like a Ryan Tannehill?
Right. Could he be a Ryan Tannehill type with Najee Harris being the Derrick Henry, right?
Right.
I could see it. I could definitely see it. That
and they got great
would not
wideouts.
surprise me. Yeah. Yeah. I hope so, man. I feel bad for the guy because he really shit the bed there in Chicago. But it seems like he had a good year holding a clipboard in Buffalo. So let's see what happens. And they did sign him to be the starter. And I think a lot of people were surprised because they were expecting him to sign with the Giants, to sign with Brian Daboll and compete with
Daniel
Jones. But obviously that didn't come to fruition. And I'm surprised that Pittsburgh wasn't in on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. I felt like he would have been a great fit there. But it is what it is. And now Pittsburgh, congratulations, you have Trubisky, who is your quarterback of the future.
Yeah. And I think actually, to kind of wrap it up, I think your point was actually super on par when you were mentioning, you look at a lot of these quarterbacks that are getting signed, how urgent a lot of these teams are to sign quarterbacks, especially a quarterback like Mitch Trubisky, and then how much people are giving away for Aaron Rodgers to stay or to go and get Russell Wilson. Just goes to show you that this draft is not very high talent-wise on that QB spectrum.
No way. Not a chance. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But anything else you want to get to before we wrap up that NFL segment?
No, this 16 seeds are terrible. Jesus. Making me sweat.
We'll get there. All right. So with that being said, we are super excited because the MLB is finally back. The collective bargaining agreement was finally signed March 10th. The MLB and MLBPA reached an agreement. Some notable things about that, something that I had mentioned last time on our podcast, men's salaries start at $700K, and I believe they go up to $750,000 over a few years. Competitive balance threshold starts at $230, and it's going to work up to $244 million in 2026. And the pre-arbitration bonus pool is now $50 million compared to where it was $10 million, and it was actually perfectly in between what the PA wanted and the owners wanted. So the owners wanted 10. The PA wanted 100, so they kind of found a balance there. And then there's a universal DH for the AL and the NL, which I think is pretty significant. You want to say something about that?
I just have a question about that thing. Now, I couldn't see. Does that go into effect this year?
Yes, the universal DH does go into effect this year.
I kind of hate that. I'll be honest. I like that the NL didn't have a DH. Right? Am I the only one? I like that you had to have your bat.
I think it's if you talk to everybody on the East Coast, especially the majority of the people that are AL fans, they're pissed. You know what I mean? They're absolutely pissed. You know?
So lame. All right.
Yeah. And then there's an expanded postseason, so 12 teams with the top 2 division winners receiving a bye. So goodbye to probably the best night in baseball. I think that's what sucks about this. I mean, that one-game wild card was, or that one-game play-in was tremendous. I don't know what you thought about that.
I loved it. I loved everything about it. I think it's garbage. I think there's two things here that I already immediately hate. That you would think that I don't know why the MLB did this. If they're trying to reach a younger crowd, I mean, just a swing and a miss again from a crappy, very crappy MLB commissioner.
Yeah. And then the last thing, something to be noted is beginning in 2023, so beginning next season, a committee of 4 active players, 6 members appointed by the MLB, and 1 umpire will be tasked with adopting changes to playing rules such as pitch clock, base size, defensive positioning, and the automated ball and strike zone. Yeah. So I was on the fence on this. I like that they're open to it. I actually wish 2 of those things would go in effect right away and then have them talk about the other thing.
And what's that?
I'm okay with the defensive positioning. I'm fine with that. And the pitch clock, I want it to be right away. So I hated that they got rid of the positioning, and I want a pitch clock.
Yeah, I hate that they're getting rid of the positioning. I think that's so stupid. I mean, sorry for trying to be smart. And, I've never seen somebody go, I've never seen a league say, no, we want the old ways. Stop using your analytics here. No, I mean, that's lame, dude. I get pissed at the shift more than I'm not pissed at the shift. But let's be honest, dude. It's part of the game, okay?
You understand it, right?
Yeah, you should be able to shift your players. How are you going to tell me, no, you cannot shift your play? And how do they determine what's a shift and what's not a shift? If I'm having my guy take 2 steps to the right, is that a shift? What's the shift? Is it there needs to be 2 people on this side, 2 people on that side? I mean, that's just so lame. That's so old man, get off my lawn. I mean, that's just so another just L for the MLB here. Automatic balls and strikes, I get it. Absolutely, I get it. I can totally understand. But I like that there's a human element to the strike zone. I get mad over it, but you should be able to use your challenge on balls and strikes, right? So where you weren't previously, right, able to use it, but now you should be able to use your challenge. So you get maybe 1 or 2 that you get to challenge
on a ball strike, especially if it's an out, especially if it's like a third strike.
Exactly, and you use your challenge on the ball and strike. Not have back ball strikes game, but you'll have that challenge in your back pocket for that one that you might need later on. I hate that. I would hate an automatic. I mean, this is a Gary Bettman level L for the MLB here in terms of. I mean, granted, we didn't lose the whole season, which is great, but some of the shit that they came up with was just asinine. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know who was calling for it. I get the expanded postseason. I get that. But don't get rid of the 1-game playoff. Make those teams that are make that series a 1-game series. Don't give me an expanded postseason with, okay, great, now everybody's in. The positioning thing I've already said, and pitch clock is the only W here, in my opinion, Sammy.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be big going forward. I don't understand the base size thing. I know they were talking about that.
Yeah.
That I could care less about. But, I mean, if you want to cater to this audience, you got to make the game faster.
Yeah.
You got to let them play, essentially. So, yeah, who cares about defensive positioning? Especially, and here's my biggest thing, especially when you're looking at a situation with baseball where home runs are at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. What the hell is the positioning going to change? Yeah. Nothing. People want to see offense and people want it to be fast. So, if you want to touch on the defensive positioning, okay, whatever, do it. But at least put the pitch clock right away. Don't make it for next year. But we'll see what happens.
I would say defensive positioning speeds up the game even.
Yeah.
I I don't get it. It's such a get off my lawn moment for the MLB, and honestly, I'm sad. I'm sad because I was back in.
What was that quote you said the other day? It was my favorite.
What
was it? The MLB can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, they can't get out of their own. All they do is just shit on them. It's like all they do is just these stupid rules. They just continue to do like stupid shit like this. I mean, just why? Why? Just stop. Like, listen to your fans. Don't listen to the boomer on the street that's like, oh, well, I remember back in my day when Jackie Robinson used to play. I mean, dude, get out of here, man. Like, we don't want to hear that crap. Nobody wanted. Who asked for the universal DH? Who said I want a universal DH? I mean,
nobody.
And now
I think it's an extra position.
But it was the coolest. It was the coolest thing about Major League Baseball is that there was actually a difference between these two leagues. And that's like the one tradition that I am so upset that they got rid of. Having the NL adopt the DH here. I don't know, man. I'd love to hear A-Rod's take on this too, because I know A-Rod's a huge baseball guy. And I'm speaking of the Fairweather podcast, A-Rod, not Alex Rodriguez. I could give a shit what number 13 for the Pinstripes cares about. But just a huge L for baseball here, Sammy. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. But all right. Pretty much a couple days later, right after CBA was announced, we all knew there was going to be tampering involved. And, of course, all the news just starts flooding in. Granted, there's a lot more news coming our way. One of the first balls that dropped was Nelson Cruz signs with the Nationals. So I think this was pretty significant because of the fact that universal DH, we already know Nelson Cruz can't really play the field much just due to age, experience, and things like that. So it was pretty interesting to see the first National League team to make a DH acquisition, and they did it pretty quickly. We had a semi-big trade. The Yankees acquired Josh Donaldson, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Ben Rortvedt from the Twins. And the Yankees trade away Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. So you mentioned something about this trade's implications. What was that? What was that question you gave me pre-pod about that?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about the catcher, Ben Rortvedt. How do you pronounce his name?
Rortvedt? I don't know.
Rortvedt. Hey, you did a better job than I did. Rortvedt. I sent you a picture. You and A-Rod a picture of this dude. He's jacked.
It blew up all over Twitter, dude.
Yoked. This guy's gonna throw the ball out of the stadium, especially Yankee Stadium. Small porch there. My question to you was, how does this trade impact the chances of the Yankees getting Carlos Correa?
And honestly, at first, I didn't really think much of it. But, when you look at the Gio Urshela situation, I mean, you're freeing up another third. You're freeing up pretty much their consistent third baseman there. And you're looking at Carlos Correa, who can pretty much play anywhere on that third base, second base, shortstop line. So maybe this does open up the option there. You're also looking at a situation where they're getting rid of players to potentially bring in more talented players. So you're looking at Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Ben Rortvedt, probably on a lower contract. Josh Donaldson, I think, is kind of mid-tier. And I think with Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela, you're looking at a little bit kind of higher paid. So maybe freeing up a little bit of space there, even though technically every team in the majors has money now, right? Because of the salary cap threshold got increased a little bit. But I think only the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets were over the threshold last year. So Yankees don't really care about that, let's be honest. But I think from a positional perspective, with getting rid of Gio Urshela, they're probably opening up some space on that middle infield, maybe pushing somebody to third and throwing Correa at short.
All signs are pointing now that Carlos Correa is looking at resigning with the Astros. The Astros planned to make a new offer to Carlos Correa today. And that was a report by Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, who also reported 31 minutes ago, Sammy, that the Blue Jays are optimistic about their chances on Kyle Schwarber.
Oh, we'll get to the Blue Jays in a second. Oh, boy. So another trade happened. I believe this was Friday, if I'm not mistaken. The Braves traded for Matt Olson from the Oakland Athletics. The A's get 4 prospects, one including Christian Pache, who's actually a highly touted prospect and somebody who was pretty good in Diamond Dynasty for all you MLB The Show players out there. So this pretty much puts it on the table that Freddie Freeman is fair game for anybody right now, right?
He's out. Yeah. He's out. He's out of Atlanta, and he's on his way to Boston right now. My sources close to me say that Freddie Freeman has always wanted to play in Fenway and has dreamed about wearing that red and white in Fenway, and that last year his favorite alternate jersey were the marathon yellow jerseys.
Hot take. You heard it here first.
False. That's all false. I literally made all that up. But he would be a great fit to the Red Sox, especially if they're about to lose Kyle Schwarber. But funny enough, Freddie Freeman has been in talks now, or he might go to the Toronto Blue Jays. They look like the clubhouse leader at this point. A report came out from the GM of the Blue Jays saying that Vladimir Guerrero was okay moving to third to allow for Freddie Freeman to jump in at first. Honestly, I can see Freddie Freeman playing third too. But just 2 years off an MVP season, what would it mean for Freddie Freeman to sign with the Toronto Blue Jays, Sammy?
Man, from what perspective? You're looking at a team that is completely loaded, a team that we all predicted would win the AL East last year. Granted, they didn't. They fell short, had some injuries. Some of the players didn't play up to their expectations. But you're looking at a situation now, right? You're looking at a situation now where they made moves to get better this offseason as well as midseason. You're looking at a pitching staff of Ryu, Barrios, Gaussman. Alek Manoah came up midseason, who was one of their highly touted prospects and was pitching lights out. And to kind of add to that, they just signed Yusei Kikuchi to kind of solidify that 5th starter spot for 3 years, $36 million. Dude, you named it earlier. You look at a lineup of Vlad, Lourdes Gurriel, Bo Bichette, George Springer, Teoscar Hernandez, and Freddie Freeman.
Teoscar Hernandez
plus the pitching staff
and Kyle Schwarber. They've, like I just mentioned, they are in talks to get Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, but is it a one or the other?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is that they never played. Kyle Schwarber never played first base really until he came to the Red Sox. So there's nothing saying that he would play first base if he came to. You know what I mean? I don't know that it would be a one or the other kind of thing. I'm honestly bummed that the Red Sox didn't swoop in here and at least have talks to get Freddie Freeman. So they're not even. Have you heard any Red Sox rumors?
Nope, nothing yet. Well, we all know Chaim Bloom likes to keep a tight seal on everything that happens in there. Unfortunately.
Which is fine, but let's also remember that the Blue Jays did lose the Cy Young winner last year.
Right, Robbie Ray.
So, who sounds like a Varsity Blues character. But Robbie Ray. But they're still going to be a great team, and Kevin Gausman. And they added a potential Cy Young winner with Kevin Gausman. So, I don't know where this team finds all the money. You look at their stands and they're always empty. I don't know. They got to be laundering money for a drug cartel or something. I don't know what's going on there.
I know everybody complains about the Yankees, but I think we need to start targeting the Blue Jays, man. How are they getting away with this right now? Under the radar too. Nobody's complaining about it.
They can't.
And we should all be bitching about them.
They can't keep getting away. It's the meme. They can't keep getting away with this. It's garbage.
I know. And then in some other news, a little bit more of real quick, Carlos Rodon signs with the San Francisco Giants. The only reason why I mentioned it, because he got 2 years, $44 million. That was easily in the Red Sox ballpark for a great lefty arm that would have been awesome in the Red Sox pitching staff. But anyway, he signed with the Giants. And then in other news, Fernando Tatis broke his wrist, and he is out for the first 3 months of the season. You hate to see it.
That sucks. I mean, put that guy in freaking bubble wrap. All right. I mean, he is one of the young stars.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah, he really is. It's a great comp, but I just don't. I mean, that team should be better than they were last season, and they weren't. They weren't good. They should have been a playoff team. Yeah. I mean, not much else I can say there. It sucks to see Tatis, who's a young face in this league right now, who's probably one of the biggest stars. I would say him, Mookie Betts. And Mookie Betts is kind of boring even. But Tatis, Vlad Guerrero Jr., like these guys, Rafi Devers, like these guys that are coming up, Juan Soto, these are the future stars of the league. Are they going to be the best players? No, Mike Trout is obviously the best player in the league, but he's boring as shit.
Yeah.
So
boring.
Nobody tunes in to see Mike Trout politely drop his bat to the ground after hitting a home run. A
moonshot too. Like he'll absolutely destroy the ball.
He lightly drops his bat on the ground, thanks to the pitcher, and gives butt high fives to everybody when he rounds the bases. I want to see Tatis barely hit the ball over the wall and throw his bat in the air so freaking high that NASA has to clear it for liftoff. That's what I like to see. I love the talking shit. I love the pissing the old people off that are like, that's not how the game is played. I love those guys. I love the guys that are you see Skip Bayless on the next day this is not how the game should be played, blah, 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 blah. Tatis is one of those guys, and I'm going to miss him for 3 months. But hopefully it's only 3 months, and he's back quick, back to his old self.
Yeah, he's so great for the league, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so great for the league. But all right, be sure, everybody, like and subscribe to the video so you can get updates. We will be doing an even more in-depth look at a lot of this MLB stuff as the season gets closer. Vic and I love to break down MLB stuff and give our predictions. And we like to pick one or two teams other than our Red Sox to kind of follow. So, be sure to tune into that. But Vic, it's that time of the month. It's time for us to all sound like college basketball experts and have confidence in our brackets for one day and one day only. So Vic, real quick, is there any teams that you want to get into? I know I had first some dark horses. Any dark horses that you would consider? Maybe 6 seed and above that could win. Obviously other than the ones, we know a lot of people are picking Arizona, Gonzaga, Kansas, but any dark horses you have? Yeah,
you took one of mine. I peeked a little bit at your.
I took yours, I think.
Okay, well, my number one is Houston as far as dark horses. Love me Houston. As you mentioned on here, they're number 4 in Ken Palm rankings. One of the better teams, and if you adjust their adjusted offensive efficiency numbers are, I believe, in the top 20. Let's make sure before I say anything. Houston. The top 5 there for adjusted offensive efficiency, and their offensive adjusted defensive efficiency is top 10 as well. So, I don't know, man. I like Houston a lot. I like AAC teams a lot in the tournament. If you don't remember, a few years back, maybe 4 years back, UCF almost upset number 1 seed Duke in the Sweet 16. But another team I like, Sammy, is the University of Texas out of the Big 12. They're ranked 15th in the Ken Palm. They're 6th. They're a 6th seed. I like that their path is good. And a much lower seeded team, well, not lower seeded team, but lower in the Ken Palm rankings, but passes my eye test, is Arkansas. I like Arkansas a lot as well. They're
very fast. They're a very fast team.
Very fast team, and not a darling, but played in a tough SEC.
Yeah. Yeah, just to back, Houston was one I kind of stole from you. That was one of mine. They are, as you mentioned, they are ranked 4th according to Ken Palm. Now, remember, this is 4th overall for everybody listening. They are ranked 4th overall according to Ken Palm, but they are a 5 seed in the tournament, meaning that they're most likely right in the top 20, top 25. So just take that for what you will, but Ken Palm has them a lot higher than where the BPI and all that has them. My other one was Tennessee. I might be a little biased because I did watch a lot of SEC tournament basketball this weekend. But like you mentioned, they passed the eye test. Went and I looked at some of the stats. They are 3rd in adjusted defense. They have one of the best defenses in the entire country. And also, like you mentioned, tough adjusted strength of schedule. 5th in net adjusted strength of schedule. They had big wins, I believe, against Texas Tech. Big wins against Kentucky. Unfortunately, they're 36th in adjusted offense. But they are a team that is catching steam late. So, I mean, that adjusted offense does take into consideration the beginning of the season. But from what I saw, it looks like they have the tools on defense to be able to counter maybe some of their deficiencies on offense because they don't have that true go-to scorer like a lot of other teams do.
But what did we learn last year in last year's tournament, Sammy, is this the defense is what's there, right? The offense sometimes flutters with nerves and whatnot, but the defense is what always sticks around. So I actually like to look at the adjusted defense more than I look at the total KenPom ranking. And for them to be that high is very impressive. Now, if I'm picking like a dark horse team, not chalk that's going to win it, I would say Tennessee. Yes, they would be a great dark horse team. Really, honestly, any one of these guys coming out of SECs. I mean, Auburn looks good. They're a 2 seed. So just keep an eye out. Arkansas, Auburn, Tennessee, LSU. I mean, these are.
I don't have a lot of confidence in Auburn just because of what I saw in the SEC tournament. And I mean, granted, Texas A&M kind of played out of their minds, but I don't know. It scares me a little bit. You know what I mean? It scares me a little bit.
Well, when you look at the KenPom rankings and the adjusted defensive efficiency here, you have, like you said, Tennessee at 3. Interestingly enough, you have LSU at 5. Yeah. So several teams.
And they have a score, and they have a guy that scores too.
Yes. Yep. So I mean, I'm with you there, man. I like any team out of the SEC, and it's funny. With my bracket, I chose Gonzaga mainly because I think they have the best player in the tournament, and that's usually where I lean to is who has the best player in the tournament
and the best team. I think hands down, them and Arizona are 2 of the best teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Top to bottom.
Well, and that's why they're 1 and 2 in the KenPom, right? But Gonzaga is a much worse defensive team than Arizona.
Right, and that's where St. Mary's ended up beating Gonzaga's because St. Mary's has a higher defense or a better defense than Gonzaga.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, I don't think it's going to matter this year. I think Chet Holmgren is one of those guys that's just a difference maker.
He is.
And the way he alters shots, I honestly think he could be the number 1 pick in the overall. I know people are high on Jabari Smith. I still think Chet Holmgren's the number 1 guy.
Yeah. All right, Vic. This is kind of the little bit of a funner segment. Let's go through some. I don't know if you picked any like upset picks that kind of stood out at you. We can kind of go 1 and 1 and see if we'll steal any of each other's upset picks.
Yeah, let me go ahead if I could pull up my bracket real quick.
Yeah.
So why don't you go first while I'm pulling up my bracket here and I can see what it shows.
Okay. This one's gonna be a little bit lame. I have other good ones, but one of my upsets was Davidson. I believe they are a 10 seed currently. So usually 10 seeds fare pretty well against 7 seeds. Davidson is a little more of a sexy pick because of the Steph Curry affiliation and kind of how they've been successful since then. They're 27 and 6. They got a BPI rank of 51 compared to Michigan State's 32. And I think that's pretty good considering the Davidson's schedule that they were forced to play. And not to mention they can really score the ball. But then you look at their KenPom ranking. They're ranked 41st. So KenPom has them ranked higher than the BPI rank. And they have a player that I actually really like, kind of Steph Curry-esque. He shoots. I mean, doesn't score as well, But he scores 16 points a game, but he shoots 45% from three-point range on the season. I think that's pretty significant. We all know that if you're a big-time three-point shooter in the tournament, you're going to have success as well. Especially if you're shooting that high of a clip, in my opinion.
Okay. So I have my big first round upset. I don't know if it's a big upset, but I have San Francisco over John Morant's alma mater, Murray State.
Wow.
Mainly, number one, KenPom rankings has San Francisco listed at 21, Murray State at 27. If you look at their adjusted defense, you'll see that San Francisco is in the top 20 again, with Murray State not even appearing in the top 30, I believe. Yeah, they're not even in the top 30 in adjusted defense. So I like San Francisco over Murray State. That's a 10 over a 7.
7.
Yeah.
Nice. My other one, not really much. I mean, it's only an upset because of the numbers, but I don't think it's that much of an upset. But I got Virginia Tech. I believe that is an 11. I believe they're currently 11.
Yeah.
And I'm going based on momentum, dude. Like, they're 13-2 since mid-January. 13-2, dude. They beat a great Duke team and just won the ACC tournament. They shoot as a team 40% from three, 75% from the free throw line, which is pretty good. KenPom has them currently ranked 23. I believe they are just outside the top 25 according to Coach's poll. I think this is an absolute steal of an 11 seed and a potential dark horse, but I'm not going that far. It's really hard for 11 seeds to make it through. But I like Virginia Tech, man. They got a lot of momentum. I mean, 13-2 since January is pretty significant. That's insane.
I also had Tech over Texas as well, so you're not alone there. I'm struggling, Sammy, to find a 2 over a 15 here, because typically you need to find a 2 over 15 here, and I don't see it anywhere on this bracket. Do you see a 2 upsetting a 15 this year? And I know that's been the case usually, but
right. There's always one, I think, every year.
Yeah.
Let me pull up my bracket real quick.
So I honestly, there's nowhere I see it. And I've looked several times, but I just can't find it. And if one of our listeners out there, is yelling at me, "Hey, dumbass, it's Delaware over Villanova." I mean, I just don't see it. The only way I would lean would be Delaware over Villanova, but that's it.
Right.
Now, and I don't even think that's, I don't know. No fucking way.
Fullerton, no.
No.
St. Peter's, no.
So
I mean, one to watch out for. This is a little bit of a stretch. Maybe the Jacksonville State Auburn, and I only say that just because of what happened to Auburn in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, maybe they're a little bit too big for the britches right now. But so in terms of, so let me give you an upset, because I didn't give you one yet. Loyola Chicago over Ohio State.
That's a pretty one.
I mean, everything just lines up there, in my opinion. The way I look at it, Loyola Chicago at the 10 seed is. I honestly, I would be surprised if they're betting favorites right now. I'm going to look real quick, but I like Loyola Chicago over Ohio State. I think Ohio State always since Greg Oden has underperformed in the tournament.
Consistently.
Consistently, exactly. So I like Loyola Chicago here. Do you have any more for me?
Yeah, I'm pulling up that. I think you might be on par with that Loyola pick. I'm trying to find it. I forgot which. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at that. Wow, it's pretty even right there. 48% have chosen Loyola Chicago and 52% have chosen Ohio State. So I think that's pretty significant. It's about even there.
That's pretty. That's high, Sammy. And then if you look at their KenPom rankings when you go to adjust defense.
Yeah.
So you got Loyola Chicago hovering around the top 20, top 25 there. Ohio State just nowhere to be seen. We're talking they're in like the 60s, 70s range.
Right.
And adjust the defense. So,
I mean, even overall, you're looking at Loyola ranked in the top 25 according to KenPom, and OSU isn't even in the top 30. So
right,
just overall, based on just overall rankings, it does look like a much better pick. Okay, my other one. This one I don't have a lot of confidence in, especially after watching a little bit this past weekend, looking into it a little more yesterday and the day before. But you got to pick one, right? Another one. You got to pick a 12. You've got to pick a 12. I don't love all of the 12s here over a 5. The one that I thought maybe is the best is Richmond. And just to give you a little stat, 17 12 seeds have been victorious in the first round of the NCAA tournament since 2010. So you're looking at least 1.5 12 seeds wins every year. So almost 2. You got almost 2 12 seeds winning in every tournament since 2010. That's the one I like the most. I think that's going to be really tough because I think Iowa's really, really good. But you're looking at 2 teams that really score the rock and, 2 teams that play really, really good defense. If anything, I think this is going to be one of those barn burner games where it's going to be closer than anybody anticipated with a 5 versus 12. It's going to be one of those ones that it's going to cut out of another game to put this one on because it's going to be much better and it's going to be a potential upset. But I think Iowa's probably going to win. But if I liked a pretty 12, I would take Richmond. Got any more for me?
I'm looking at my bracket.
Mind if I go one more?
Yeah, go ahead. Hit me with that. Well, does Creighton over San Diego State count? 9 over an 8?
Yeah, I mean, it still counts. I think that's, yeah.
Still counts. So I got Creighton over San Diego State for no other reason than I like Creighton's uniforms. And I'll just say this: San Diego State is a much better team on KenPom. If you're going to bet this, hedge me on this one. This is just or fade me on this one. This is just an awful pick, and just solely.
He said fade you.
This is solely by gut here. Take San Diego State over Creighton, but I personally like Creighton over San Diego State.
The last one I had, this could be a good one. This is another good one. I really like South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits are another team that can really score. And just to put in perspective how they can score, they averaged 87 points per game this season. 87 points per game. That's ridiculous for college. Mm-hmm. They shoot 45% from 3 as a team. They're 76% from the free throw line. They have a 52.5% field goal percentage, and they have not lost a game since December 15th of last year.
Is it South Dakota State?
South Dakota State, correct. The Jackrabbits.
Yeah, I know you identify with Jackrabbits. Yeah.
They are 12 in the country in terms of adjusted offense, according to KenPom. I think that's pretty significant, especially for a team that plays in the division that they do. I'm not saying they're going far, but I'm saying they can score the rock and they can give you the upset that you need for that first round. I might not take them against Iowa, but I still think I'm taking them in that first round.
You know what? I don't hate that. I think you're onto something here. As I look at the KenPom rankings here, Providence just ranked 49th and in the low, under 50 in terms of defensive efficiency. You might be onto something here, Sammy. I think I'm with you.
Any other ones you got for me, Vic?
You mentioned Richmond, but they're actually one of the worst. Was it me that you mentioned Richmond, the 12, right?
I did.
I don't see it, Sammy. They're one of the worst.
That's my left field one. That was my left, just because of what I saw in the tournament that they just played, the Atlantic 10. It's a tough division in my opinion, but came out of nowhere. The Spiders.
So what about Indiana as a 12 seed? You don't like Indiana?
That's another one. I didn't like the sexy pick of it, but yeah, I like the Indiana.
Indiana over St. Mary's?
I don't like them over. I don't like them over St. Mary's, and I think that's the problem too, because of that 12 seed in particular. You're looking at Indiana or Wyoming, who's going to come out of that first. And I don't like any of them to beat St. Mary's, especially after what I saw St. Mary's did against Gonzaga. I was actually really, really impressed.
That's actually true. That's a great point. I think Indiana is definitely the best 12 seed here. But yeah, I don't want to go too long on this. But needless to say, folks, we're excited about college basketball, and you should be too. There's nothing better than March Madness. Tuning in at 12 p.m. to watch, Texas Southern shoot bricks against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Okay, there's no other sport like this. There's no other tournament like this. That's one March Madness, and this is it, guys. Enjoy it.
Yeah. But all right, Vic. Townie takeaway.
Hit me with it.
All right, it's going to be a little story time. You're going to think I'm absolutely crazy, but this happened to me the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there Sunday watching the Kevin Garnett thing, seeing his number get raised to the rafters. I'm just going through just like a Rolodex of just emotions, everything. I remember you and I used to watch so many games together back during that Big Three era. And thinking about how the Celtics, essentially from 2008, the Celtics kind of ruined basketball, right? I mean, that's what a lot of people say. We started it, right? They point at us and say, you guys started the Big Three thing, and that's why it kind of came to what it is today. And while I don't disagree with that, I think there's a bigger aspect that we need to point out here. And this is something you and I talk about quite a lot, especially because you and I love data analytics. We love looking at those next-gen stats of players, efficiencies, how winning teams win, kind of not the X's and O's, but kind of the metrics behind the X's and O's. And I think a big thing that stuck out to me, because as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about how you and I and a lot of us Boston fans, we talk about the 2008 team as one of the greatest basketball teams to ever play, even though they really underachieved, if you really think about it. So then I think back on, okay, where did we go wrong? I mean, obviously we had the Kobe situation, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant just played out of his mind, destroyed us in that second go round. Then I think about, I believe it was, no, that was in 2010. So in 2009, the Celtics lost to the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. And
remember that.
I think back on that, right? And one of the biggest reasons why the NBA has changed today was because of the 3-point. The 3-point, people shooting 3-point percentages, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things that I took away from that series with Orlando in particular is, everybody wants to point the blame at us, but everybody should really point the blame at what the Magic did that year and kind of how that caught on. Granted, they had one of the greatest center productions out of a player in God knows how long in Dwight Howard in his prime, right? But you look at how that roster was constructed, just a bunch of shooters, right? They had a dominant center, and they surrounded him with a bunch of shooters. Jameer Nelson, Hato Turkoglu, Rashard Lewis, J.J. Redick. You keep going down that list of just all the shooters that team had. And this was, I believe it was, is it Stan or Jeff? It's Stan Van Gundy, correct? That was the coach of that team at the time. So
it was Stan Van Gundy. And don't forget about Brandon Bass.
Right. So Stan Van Gundy's whole mantra was, if you're not shooting a high percentage, if you're not getting to the hole or shooting a high percentage from the mid-range, you're shooting a 3-point. You're shooting a 3-pointer, right? So that's who we really should be getting mad at, because they started this. They started this whole inclination of teams looking more into that aspect. And then as analytics got more involved, people realized, wow, either Stan Van Gundy found it from somebody else, and I want to look more into it. Either Stan Van Gundy found it from somebody else, or he brought it up and somebody researched it and realized, wow, he's actually right. If you look at how offensive efficiency is, it's true. If you're shooting over 30% from three, you should always take that shot unless you're going to be right under the hoop, right? So there's no in between. You don't take that mid-range. Then you look at the perspective of the mid-range shot, 2-point field goal percentages have drastically decreased since 2000, I believe 2010. It went from about 22% mid-range shots, 22% 3-point shots out of all of the attempts taken, to now we're almost at 40% shooting 3-pointers. So pretty much all I want to say there, and Vic, you feel free to chime in, is rather than point the finger at Steph Curry. I think Steph Curry was partially a catalyst to that. We need to point the finger at the Stan Van Gundy Orlando Magic team for making this 3-point barrage or this 3-point parade a thing in the NBA.
Yeah. And shout out to Linder for throwing out Jameer Nelson Jr. On Delaware. I did not realize that. So thank you, Linder, for throwing that out there. I might have to take them all the way now. But lots of juniors this year. I started to feel old when I'm looking at who's in the tournament here. I know Van didn't make it, but you were telling me that Scottie Pippen Jr. is playing on Vandy. So very, very interesting. I would also look at the Suns. The 7-second Suns as a team that really changed the way basketball was played. Where they played it kind of inside out, where it was quick 7 seconds. But I'm completely on board with you. I mean, the way that Magic team was built was ahead of its time, with 4 out shooters and letting Dwight do what he needs to do.
Clean up.
Exactly. So kudos to you. But in the moment, I think we all said it. You, me, and Johnny. It's used to say it. This team's different. The way they had just shooters, Jameer Nelson. Hedo Turkoglu was one of the very first, 6-8 point guards, right? Now everybody's obsessed with the big point guards, Ben Simmons, Cade Cunningham, these guys. Obviously Magic was the first, but in terms of when it came back, I think Hedo Turkoglu really brought it back, where Hedo was bringing the ball up and he had the ball in his hands. So. That Magic team, you look at it, and the way it was constructed definitely had a massive, major impact on the way teams play today. So kudos to the Magic.
They shot 44%, I believe, in that series against the Celtics. That's a stat that I won't ever forget because I was like, that's unreal. That's unreal.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah. Literally, what are you going to do?
You can't do anything. But it was just an interesting take that I had, kind of remembering everything and how everybody points the fingers. I know LeBron was part of Catalyst because we had to create this big three to beat LeBron, and then Stan Van Gundy's like, well, how are we going to defeat the Celtics and LeBron? And he ended up finding something, and then I think it just evolved over time with that. And obviously, you look at how that ended up having an effect on how teams drafted. So Steph Curry started this, but at the same time, it's like, well, how did Steph Curry get into the position he's in? Because teams started to look at that as a valuable asset, like a guy that can shoot.
And I don't think Steph Curry thought of that when he was drafted, right? I mean, he was like the 12th overall pick here, guys. Right. So, I'm with you. I agree. Yeah. Matt, blame the Magic. It's not our fault.
Anything else you want to get to, Vic, before we close it out?
No, always Celtics. Garnett did his job. Love you, kid.
So again, thank you everybody for tuning in to Townie Sports. Welcome to all of our new members. We will be live with you in 2 weeks, hopefully touching on some more March Madness, maybe some more MLB news. We are live Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 weeks from today. So I believe that will be the 29th. So be sure to tune in then. We love you all. Thank you for choosing us for your listening pleasure on all things sports. This show would not be possible without you guys, so thanks so much for listening. Remember, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Every one of your reviews, likes, and subscriptions helps us with the YouTube algorithm to reach other potential viewers and even grow our fan base even larger and stronger. So remember, like and subscribe, share the videos. Oh, and don't forget, we are now back on all of your podcast streaming apps, all that good stuff. So Spotify, Apple, Podbean. So you can listen to that, throw it on in your car. That also helps us as well. Be sure to leave a comment and rate. Give us a nice 5-star if you like what you hear. Lastly, don't forget to check out our Instagram page at Townie_sports. I'm working on giving us all different clips and segments from the show. So in case you missed it, and give you a little bit of sneak peek into what we talked about every week. And of course, our TikTok page at Townie Sports Pod. for all the mini clips, highlights of the show as they drop. So that being said, I'm your host, Sammy, alongside the great Vic. We are Townie Sports. See you next week.
Hey, swag so mean, swagger on 100. We keep it real, dog. Nah, we ain't never fronted. You know my whole cap G clan stay blunted. My toes stay bruised, cause I'm running to the money. Swag so mean.